I'm honored this morning to introduce to you Paige Arnold-Fenn. Congratulations for your interview being published on Authority Magazine, titled Lessons Learned as a Caregiver. You had a major dose of caregiving there for a few years. I read that your parents and your husband's parents all became ill about the same time, and they lived thousands of miles away, and yet you and your husband became their primary caregivers. What in the world was that like?
It was a really surreal period in our life. Yeah, during a 6-year window, we had 7 immediate family members all kind of get sick, decline, and die. And it was like a game of whack-a-mole. Like every time we thought someone was stable, someone else would pop up with a big problem. And we lived thousands of miles away from all of them, and there were different problems, and they were different generations, really. My husband's the youngest of his family, and I'm the oldest of mine. And his parents both died in their 80s. My mom died in her 60s, and my dad in his 70s. And he had a sibling die, and my great aunt, who was the matriarch of my family, died during the same window. It was just a really tough period that we never saw it coming. So it was tough.
Well, we expect our aging parents to die at some point, but to have that many family members become ill and need caregiving in such a short period of time is kind of, as you said, it was a little surreal.
Yeah, and I look back on it now, and I still almost can't believe it, to be honest. And I mean, I think around the holidays in particular, you really feel the loss. My husband and I are the only ones that were self-employed. We both had started our own companies, and we're the only ones that didn't have children. So we were, and we had really good relationships with all the people who were failing. So unfortunately, uh, we were the two most likely candidates, to be honest, to get on planes and to help out where we could. So it really it's been, even now it's hard for me to think about, to be totally honest. It's really uh it was such a sad period for both of us, but we had each other going through it, which was amazing, to have kind of somebody who really understood at their core everything that I was going through and he was going through simultaneously.
Was it like your families just kind of assumed that you would be the chosen ones by default?
I mean, there's never a convenient time for people to need help and to get sick and be in decline. We um, willingly volunteered for the role, but we also were the most natural candidates. You know, when when my parents were getting sick and dying, my nieces and nephews were all very young at that time. So my brother and sister's kids were in school, and it was just never convenient for them to help out at the level that we were able to grab our computers and our cell phones and hit the road. This was well before COVID, when everybody was virtual, but
Yes.
we were well versed in working remotely even before it was trendy.
I'm wondering if did you by any chance struggle with thoughts of why me or feelings of resentment?
um uh I I I mean, like you said, everyone expects it's nature taking its course when your parents and great aunts and grandparents, that generation starts to decline. It just, I think we just didn't expect the tsunami to hit all at once. Um, but um, it was, I think my husband and I are both real can-do people and don't make excuses. And the fact that we both started our companies and kind of made things happen, I think it was just our natural response to helping out people that we cared deeply about and loved and knew that being there and our presence would make a huge difference. So we did it.
So it sounds like you both had the organizational gifts and the ability to manage multiple things. And this, you managed to fit these events or callings into your schedules. And
Yeah.
that would take a lot of cooperation between you and your husband.
Yeah, at times we were like ships passing in the night. So, I'd be getting on a plane and he'd be coming back. And you just kind of do what you got to do. Yeah, we both are the most business minded, I would say. We both ran our own businesses and we both were very scrappy and resourceful. I was managing, my mom was being treated for cancer at Mayo Clinic in Minnesota, and um, she was living in New Orleans, but you know, uh, living basically at a hotel at the hospital while she was being treated.
Yeah.
And so, I ran a global business and I did a lot of work virtually at the time. So, getting on a plane, visiting with my mom, setting up processes in place so that she had everything she needed. Um, it was, it just seemed like the right thing to do, and I was able to do it. And it kind of put all my business skills and MBA skills and communication skills and um, everything kicked in. And my husband, his parents lived about 3,000 miles away on the West Coast, and my dad also lived on the West Coast. So um, it was a lot of shoe leather. It was a lot. It was a lot of you know time and blood, sweat, and tears. But I don't think there was a better option. We were the natural people to do it. We had the best relationships with the people. We were the most kind of qualified.
Yes.
Um, and we could tell how much it was appreciated and what a big difference we were able to make. Even if we couldn't solve all the problems, we made that last chapter of their lives a lot better.
Oh, I can imagine how grateful each of them were for the amount of skill as well as compassion that you brought to that process.
I think, my mom always thought that I worked too much and I had a big chunk of my career in corporate America working for big publicly traded Fortune 500 companies. And I left that chapter to go work for smaller startup firms. And then I left that chapter to hang out a shingle and start my own firm. And I
Yes.
think when that happened, I think my mother um, didn't quite understand. She was very impressed, like a lot of people are, when you work for a big company and you have a business card with a big title and everyone knows what you do and they're very impressed. Um, and my mom, I think she thought I was having a nervous breakdown or something because I was leaving these big fancy titles and jobs to go do something no one had ever heard of before and then start my own thing. But
Yeah.
I think at the end, she really appreciated the autonomy and flexibility that my husband and I had working for ourselves. We didn't have to get approval for a vacation. There were no analyst reports or quarterly earnings calls or anything related to, when you work either for a big Fortune 500 firm or you have investors who have put a lot of money into your firm, it's not really your call. A lot of times, my husband and I both self-financed our businesses, so the buck really did stop with us. So we didn't need to get anybody's permission to get on a plane and go do work for however long we needed to. And I think that really, it was such an important kind of moment for my mother to appreciate, like,
Yes.
wow, if you
Yes.
had left those big fancy jobs and if you hadn't started your own company, you wouldn't have been able to do any of this for me. And I said, no, that's, I mean, obviously I didn't do it for that reason, but it was an amazing outcome of how our careers had progressed. So um, she was grateful, but we were grateful too, his parents as well, that he and I were in a position where we could kind of keep doing what we needed to do professionally to keep our businesses thriving during a really tough personal chapter of our lives.
Very serendipitous.
Yeah.
So I have two questions. Because I'm a relationship coach, I'm wondering, how did you maintain the health of your marriage during this time? And how did you take care of yourself during this time?
So we definitely took a back seat during that period for our own personal needs or desires or wishes because duty called.
Yes.
I feel like you know, again, I would never have guessed based on the ages and generations of our parents that we would be going through. It's like his dad was the first, and then my mother, and then my father, and then his mother. So you would never have guessed it would have happened in the order or the way that it happened. Um, and I think because we were so in sync, we were learning from each other in real time, and we just made it happen. We made it work. It wasn't really, not that it wasn't a choice, but it wasn't an option for either of us not to do what we were doing. We just knew it was in our family's best interest. And if it meant that, we were ships passing in a night, the thing is, when your parents decline in a way that, whether it's cancer or another terminal situation with heart or organs, it's like you get the wake up call, you get the warning signal that, like, you're on the decline, and chances are you're not going to go back the other direction at that
Right.
stage and
Right.
at that age. So we knew that the situation, we didn't know when it was going to end, but we knew it was a
Yes.
warning shot. And
Yes.
so, anything that used to irritate us or anything that might have been, well, one day we'll get around to it or we'll take care of it. You don't have that option. That's been taken off the table. So basically, my mom and I definitely, like a lot of mothers and daughters, would butt heads a lot starting in my teenage years, but I just didn't let any of it get to me anymore. I knew that, um, it's just, it wasn't worth it. There was no reason to fight or disagree about anything. So we got along as well as we've ever gotten along in that chapter of her life, um, because it was the right thing to do. And making peace and having closure at the end just felt so much better in a way. Um, so we, the relationship, it was really hard for both of us, but we were completely in sync and really prepared for what was happening as much as you can be, even though you're never ready to lose people you love, even if they're old or sick and you see the signs coming. Um, you make the best of a really bad situation. So I think in a way it brought out the best in both of us. And, I think before this period, I could be very impatient. I could be very, uh, you know, not, uh, I don't know, just not as flexible as I needed to learn to be. And I think for both of us, we just had our priorities completely in sync, and we knew what had to be done. And it just meant for our own personal situation, maybe we had to take a back seat. You know,
Yeah.
you don't get to go to a spa and relax. You don't really get to, take the vacation. You don't want to be out of the country. My husband and I used to travel to Europe for weeks at a time. We didn't want to be gone like that. We just knew there would be another time, another chapter in our life where that will be possible. It just wasn't right now. So for that period, there were just a lot of things that got put on the back burner or got put on hold or just weren't priorities at that stage in our life. And, maybe it meant I got to go get a massage or acupuncture or a haircut or get my nails done an hour here or an hour there. Not the same as getting to go to Italy for 3 weeks, um, but it was nice nonetheless. So, you do the self-care when you can in little bits and pieces. And
Mhm.
then there will be another time down the road when you get to do some of the more uh, treats in your, really have more extensive time downtime. But that just wasn't the right period for it.
Well, the choices that you and your husband made really speak highly of your basic character as well as your commitment to doing what in your mind was the right thing to do. And I'm I'm so grateful. I'm I'm grateful for you that you were able to do the things that allowed you to let go of these relationships knowing you'd done all you could.
For sure. No, we're grateful. I mean, it was really a gift to both of us because the finality of losing people you love when they're gone, and you can't go back and have the conversations or turn back the clock and whatever. So I think it was really a gift to both of us. I mean, obviously we miss them all the time, and especially this time of year, it's even kind of harder or sadder, but I would say neither of us have any regrets at all, and we just feel very fortunate that, you know, you don't really understand it until you go through it. When people used to say, like, oh, it was a blessing when they finally passed, I was like, why is that a blessing? I don't get that. But now I really do understand. Like, my mother would have loved to have lived to 100 or longer, but not in the state she was in.
Yeah,
Like, not a great quality of life for any of them at the end.
right.
And they loved enjoying their life, but it gets to a point where, they're tired and they're exhausted, and it's not what they how they wanted to live either. So, and, we're very fortunate that we were adults. I mean, I have friends that whose parents died when they were young and they barely remember them. I mean, we have so many happy memories and great trips and great traditions and so many things that we're incredibly grateful for that we had that for decades in our life.
It also speaks very highly of the quality of your marriage, that you were able to navigate the stress on both of you and the separations, and uh, that really speaks very highly of the marriage that you have.
Well, that's probably the single best decision I ever made in my life, to be honest. He's a keeper.
Okay. Okay, I'm really glad to hear that. Have you really been able, with all of the, like you said, whack-a-mole events that kept popping up, did you even have a chance to grieve, or is grieving still going on?
No, I think um, we definitely have grieved in stages, I would say. I think when we were right in the thick of it, like when his dad was the first to die, it was incredibly sad because it was our first parent to die, but we had to get thrown right back into the soup, so we didn't really have time to process things necessarily in real time. But given that he and I, again, are the most kind of business minded and whatever, we managed a lot of the estates once they did pass. So we
Yes.
became executor and executrix of a lot of those estates. So, you know, you do have time to process because, you know, you're cleaning out their homes and closets and
Right.
tchotchkes and, you know, distributing, you know, their special mementos to people. So I do feel like there's been 100% closure, and
Mm.
we're very proud of how we handled that chapter of our life. But yeah, I just feel like you're never really over it, really, because, you know, I've had friends who have lost parents in the last month, and it's like you remember, it's like you're right back with them, you know, it just makes you sad again. And, you know, you realize what they're going through, and this is going to be the first holiday season without their mom or dad. And, you know, as I was telling someone who just lost their mom a week ago, you know, I still don't go to CVS in the month of May because it was my mother's birthday, Mother's Day, and that was when she died also in the same month. And
Well,
so I can't even walk down the card aisle at CVS. Like I just avoid it
yeah,
around that time of year because it's too sad for me. So,
yes.
you know, there are things that are going to stick with you no matter what.
I think, you know, in my experience, grief comes in waves, and there are big waves, and then there's little ripples, and it never ends. You know, it's like there's a special place in my heart for the loved ones that I've lost
For sure.
at different times in sometimes unexpected ways that grief will surface.
Yeah, you can be driving and a song will come on the radio and it just brings you back to something, a vacation or something.
Mhm.
Um, or you pass someone, you're walking, you know, in an office building or a shopping mall or something, and you smell a perfume
Uh-huh.
that reminds you of your mother or grandmother or something. Oh, absolutely. And it's like apropos, you would just be tootling along, not with a care in the world, and then all of a sudden, you know, you hear something or you smell something, and it's just like, oh my God, I'm right back in it.
Yes. This morning I got an email about a podcast topic that made me choke up, you know, to remember my son that I has been gone for many years now. But it was the topic of the podcast that just unexpectedly popped up in my email that brought tears to my eyes again. So I, I'm I'm going to change the subject if that's okay with you.
No worries.
Your business name is Mavens and Moguls, and I'm
Yes.
so curious to know what your business is. Do you want to share a little bit about that?
Sure. So we're basically a virtual marketing department for organizations that need access to great marketing talent on an as needed outsourced basis. So a maven is a Yiddish word for someone who's an expert. My great grandmother would have called it a know-it-all. She would not be happy with the name, but and a mogul is someone of rank, power, or distinction in a specified area. So I have assembled a group of about 4 dozen great marketers across the globe, and we come together and form teams based on what clients need. So whether they need marketing, advertising, promotions, PR, copywriting, websites, anything under the marketing umbrella, we can help them with.
Gosh, what an amazing service you are providing. And
It's
as
fun.
a,
We love it. I've spent my whole career in marketing. I My first marketing job was in 1990, so I've been doing this a long time.
okay, a lot of experience, and you brought together an amazing team, it sounds like.
Yeah, some really great, the best people in my career.
Paige, I so appreciate the time you set aside to spend with me today. And thank you for sharing your experience. I'm sure it will be helpful to many people that go through perhaps a similar experience.
I hope so. You know, it's a tough time, and just know it's not going to be that way forever. But you can get through it and be stronger because of it. And you can look back, and instead of it being kind of teary, you can look back and smile from all the happy memories and the laughs. And that's what you remember, I think, more than anything. It doesn't make me sad. It makes me happy when I think of these people today.
Well, and I acknowledge you because of the way you and your husband handled that period of time. You can look back on it with self-satisfaction and not regret.
Absolutely.
That
Without a
must
doubt.
be worth a lot to both of you.
Priceless.
Priceless. Thank you so much, and I will be sending you a copy of this video and also turning it in to Authority Magazine so they'll attach it to your written interview as well.
Thanks, Nancy. This has been really great chatting with you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.